And then I'm going to go in and we're going to live stream.
Hmm. I almost forgot about our live stream.
Yeah. Are you gonna watch from your end, Debbie, to see if it goes up? Or
I can,
I can look on mine too. So
okay. Yeah, let me get my phone out real quick and then, oh,
lines and turbulence. Okay.
I think I just got a notification. No.
All right, here we go. We're going live.
Okay.
There you go. And mine always says preparing to the live stream and it says
Okay.
up. So, but usually it shows on your end that we are. So,
Okay. Let me double check. Let me just make sure. Yep. It
all
looks like
right.
we are live.
Good, good, good. So welcome, Kelly. We are so glad to have you and welcome all viewers, whether you're listening now or you're listening later. Welcome to Laugh Lines and Turbulence. And this week we have Kelly Graham Tick to talk with and share her stories. And we're very excited. So, but we'll go ahead and get started by
Mhm.
Debbie's going to go ahead and read your bio and then we'll jump right in.
Thanks.
First of all, Kelly, thank you so much for joining us, and we really appreciate you. So we're going to go ahead and introduce you. Kelly Graham Tick is a registered massage therapist, educator, storyteller, lover of life, people, animals, and the planet. Duchess of nurturing touch, hugger of peeps and talking trees, wisdom seeker, soul doula, cuddler of babies, handholder of olders, resounder of respite, dame of human dignity, proud mama of amazing humans, plants, and fur babies, compassionate extraordinaire, and founder of One Caring Human Society. Oh my gosh, Kelly, we are so happy to have you. And
Thank
what
you.
a list of stuff
Yeah,
that you
there's
have. Oh
amazing.
my goodness. I love all of it. Beautifully, very beautifully put. So
Thank you.
so
I
tell
like
us
people
about
to know
yourself.
who I am right
Yes.
from the start, and that's my soul and my heart. So, um, yeah, I like to forward with that. Um, I learned that from author named Levia Jai Jones in her book Professional Troublemaker, how to do that kind of introduction. It's like Game of Thronesy.
Love it.
Yes, 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 it is. Love it.
Yeah. So how are you both?
Great. Great. It's cold. I mean, I'm sure British Columbia doesn't get as cold as Wisconsin or Illinois does. So the weather has definitely become frigid here. So,
No, it's
but
just good today.
yeah.
Yeah. So how do you want me to start?
Well, tell us first about tell us your journey, how you got to where you're at, and that moment. As I read in your bio, you're a massage therapist, and then tacked on a lot of other things. And tell us about you know, your company, like the touch caring human. Tell us about that and how you got there.
Okay.
Yes.
So I've been a registered massage therapist for just over 12 years. And however, I've been treating people hands-on for over 30, but I went the registered route just 14 years ago. So throughout the career that I've had with a practice and treating patients, I've treated a lot of people with chronic illness, chronic disease, a lot of elderly folks, those who are dying, and babies. So both ends of the spectrum. I became a teacher at a massage school as well. And then I had the privilege of running a workshop where we did outreach with my students once a week at a care home. And so we treated the elderly residents there. Through the years we were there, they quickly grew into my heart family. And a lot of places like this are difficult to live in when it comes to the amount of attention, the amount of nurturing touch, the amount of compassionate presence. And so that can be challenging in the first place. And then when COVID happened, it shut down all the care homes in the country and likely in all the other places around the world. But it was mostly very heartbreaking because we as massage therapists were not considered essential in their care. And so we were not allowed into the care home for just about 18 months. And so these folks were isolated without touch, without visitors, without even interaction with each other for 18 months. And so loved ones weren't able to come in. They were eating their meals in their rooms and they could wave at each other across the hall, pretty much. And so that was devastating for them. And then when we finally were allowed to come back in, it was 18 months later, and I saw one of the residents there who we'd been treating for years. And she just cried and said, you know, like, we're so happy that you're back, but it was so awful that I would have rather died than be isolated like that. And right in that moment is where One Caring Human Society was born inside me, because I didn't want that to ever happen again. And so I started a journey of having massage therapists become part of the essential healthcare team. And so being on that journey, our One Caring Human Society became a registered nonprofit organization this past summer. And yeah, so it's been quite a journey over the last few years to be able to get to this point. And now that we are, what we're doing is offering compassionate presence and therapeutic touch to the elderly and the dying in hospice, in care homes, and we're working on hospitals as well. And because of this, I mean, the medical industry loves research. And so we're doing a research study with 2 hospices in our area in order to get it published and just contribute to that research world so that we can be more in those spaces.
That's
So
amazing. And that's amazing how, even though that was such a horrible time during COVID and like the lack of human interaction that was allowed, at least something came out of it. In your, and you, like you said, that's when, you know, that was born. And we don't, I think maybe don't realize that how much we do need like human
mhm,
interaction and that type
absolutely,
of
it's
contact. So
essential. It's
yes, it
critical.
totally essential, totally essential. I think that that time actually totally proved that
Yeah,
how important it really is. So
I think so too.
yeah,
Yeah,
kudos to you for like developing something like that. It was it's amazing.
thank you. And it
That is
just
so
so
great.
happened that I was
Mhm.
50.
Ah!
Mhm.
Wow. So was your aha moment, was it, what part of the whole thing was it? Was it that resident that said, thank goodness you're back? Was that the aha moment for you?
It was, there was a lot of lead up to it where we had interacted for over 5 years with many of these same residents. And I just saw how lonely they were and that
Yeah.
a lot of them didn't get a lot of visitors. So this was their only kind touch that they would receive often. And so they would get medical or invasive or painful touch because of their health conditions. But this was the kindness and the connections they created with the students and with me were so profound that you could just see the difference in how much they look forward to it and how much it contributed to their well-being. And so leading up to it, I had thought, oh, wouldn't it be great if we could have a hospital-based program for massage therapists in care homes and things like that as a regular thing. And when I saw that resident after we were let back in after COVID, that was like, it just turned that switch on. And I was like, oh yeah, this has to happen.
Mhm.
You hit the road running.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, somehow I wasn't scared to share my ideas anymore. And I think that imposter syndrome came into it beforehand, but there's a breaking point or a tipping point, right? Where all of a sudden it's like, I don't care about that stuff anymore.
Right.
This is more important.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I'm just reading part of your bio too, like the part that you just said, the imposter syndrome. I learned to overcome imposter syndrome and perfectionism. I started feeding myself first by making my mornings sacred just for me with ritual through meditation, writing, reading, standing in damp grass. I love this one, sprinkling cinnamon in my coffee whenever it feels good. So I was reading all of that. And I love that whole the little ritual you have. I think we tend to forget to take care of ourselves first,
Yeah.
and how important it is to take that time to focus on yourself so you could prepare yourself mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally for the rest of the day and for other people around you.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
It changed everything for me when I started doing that every day. And
Mhm.
it could be just a 1 minute thing where I'm sprinkling coffee, cinnamon in my coffee and
Mhm.
making an intention for the day. Or I could read or I could write, and it could be 2 hours that I take care of myself. So I just made sure that I started getting up earlier before I needed to start my day. And
Mhm.
that time nourished me so much that it felt like uh, I lived a whole day before I even started my day, just for
Yeah.
myself.
Yes. And I mean, you have children and you have pets. When did you start realizing that you needed that type of ritual or to do something for yourself? When
I
did that
think it
start?
was probably throughout the time when my mom was diagnosed with cancer, and um, things just got way too much. And I'm a sensitive person, and I enjoy, like, being in the woods or in the forest really
Mhm.
nourishes me. And so I notice that when I'm not in the woods regularly, like if a month goes by and I don't get to walk in a forest and smell that air and that moss and the dirt, I kind of go a little stir crazy. I get cabin
Mhm.
fever and
Mhm.
I get irritable. And so when I notice myself getting irritable for very small things at my family, I'm like, okay, it's time. And so that happened a lot before my mom's diagnosis. But when we were dealing with her cancer and all the things that go on through that whole process, um, I noticed that I needed more self care through
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
so I started doing this every day. And so it was um, probably right around the time that my mom got diagnosed. It was in June, and she passed in December of the same year of 2022. And I started writing every morning in from June on. And so I've been writing every morning and posting every single day on social media since June of 2022. And um, it's amazing how quickly it all accumulates, because I've now got over 1,400 posts. And within the first year, through my mom's diagnosis and her passing and the grieving and the healing, all of that, um, it was so helpful to be able to write every day, like a journal, because it got my emotions out. It made me have perspective. It allowed me to move through the process in a way where I was sharing how I was feeling with others, with the world, and not actually caring about where it landed. And if people needed to see those messages, then they would.
Mhm.
And it was more about releasing what I needed to.
Yeah.
And so that whole journey started then, because I really needed to care for myself through that process.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
Did you
I was
find, did you find that there were people that would reach out and say, oh, I really needed this today?
absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
so validating too,
So
that
many
like to
people.
be able to touch another person's life with words is so incredible. I love that you've done that.
Yeah. And even more like I would run into people that I was connected with on social media and they would say, I don't comment all the time, but I read your posts every day and they're
Oh,
so beautiful, or they've helped me so much. Or if it was really impactful, they'll send me a message and be like, wow, I so needed that today.
Wow.
And I know a lot of people don't always read posts on social media. And so because of that, I realized it could be put into a book form. And so I did that. And I created a book called 365 Days of Compassion
wow.
through
Love
the
it.
year of my mom's diagnosis and her passing. And it has 365 graphics, one on every page. And it just talks about what I went through and how to see the world in different ways. And so it's a book about compassion. And I just
Beautiful.
chose that year of compassion to put out in the world as well.
I
So it's
love that. And it's a short, quick read too. That's the
yeah,
thing,
you can
like,
just read one thing a day.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And just like set your intention through that or set the start
exactly.
of your day, right?
Yeah, you can use it like an oracle and just flip to whatever page opens and see what
Yeah.
the message is for the day.
Yes, I love that. Yes.
Yeah.
I was
So,
reading on here too, when you wrote on here, hugger of peeps and talking trees.
yes.
I love that. What are talking trees?
They are our relatives. I feel like if you listen, if you go deep enough and you are silent when you're in the woods and you're just near a tree or in a forest, because they're all so connected that you can hear them talk sometimes and they have messages for you. And I have found, and who knows where it comes from, but I think that it is the connection that comes from being in a grove of living beings that have so much wisdom and they've been here so long,
Mhm.
um, that they just have things to tell you. And
Yes,
whether it's from your wisdom deep within, or it's like you're talking to the soul of the world, something has a message for you. And you can
yes,
ask them questions and they'll answer with whatever you need to hear that pertains to what's going on in your life right now. And so I have been a tree hugger all my life as far as I can remember. And yeah, it was something that my dad teased me about when I was little. And that was part of my nickname, tree hugger. But it definitely, they have messages for us.
they do. They do. You know, it's kind of funny. My husband and I were just talking today about how much better we feel when we're near the trees, you know?
Yeah.
And he was saying, he goes, you know, when you live near trees or you're in the forest, that's high. He goes, that's a high vibration. That's, you know, it's so funny hearing it from him because he's not, I'm like, it sounds like me talking kind of, you know, so I'm like, but I'm like, yeah, you're right. But you know, so we were just talking about the trees today, which is so funny that you were saying that. But before, when we would take the dog on a walk or when we would go walking in the forest, I would hug a tree because
Yeah.
there is, and I've done that for years. You know, I meditate, and also when I go into the forest, I there is something when you hug a tree, and I don't care who's looking, because before I was like, I'm gonna just come up and just and give it a hug. And then when I do hug it, it just transfers all of that, like to, you know, to the ground, to the tree and then to the earth.
Yeah,
So you feel that transfer. You do
you
feel that,
do.
you do feel less heavy. The load is lightened a little bit when you do that. And
Yes.
I've tried to have my husband hug a tree when we were on a walk too. And he was just he was afraid
Keep
people
working
would,
on it.
yeah, yeah. He's working on it. He's working on it.
It's so good. It's
But
the
I'm like,
same as,
yes,
yeah,
yeah.
like standing in damp grass.
Yes.
as hugging a tree, is like being right next to the ocean with the salt air.
Mhm.
Those negative ions in nature fill us up, because when you encounter negative ions and there's a high concentration and a low concentration, so a tree has a lot, human beings don't have a lot. So when they touch, the negative ions flow into the space that doesn't have a whole lot. So it it not only is like mentally and emotionally helping us feel better, but it's actually physically transferring those healthy ions to our bodies.
Yeah.
Right,
Amazing.
right.
Yeah.
We've got, Debbie and I have a really good video from our very beginnings, and she caught me on camera hugging a tree. That was pretty
Nice.
fun.
I love talking to fellow
Tree hugger.
huggers.
Oh yeah,
So
and
awesome.
and the grass and the what and we were before our very first broadcast. I'm like, we're gonna ground ourselves and we're gonna do a
Yeah.
meditation. And Gina's walking through the grass. She goes, "Why is your grass lumpy?" She's like, I go, "Don't worry about it. Just walk through the grass." She goes, "Are there rocks in
Yeah, anything. Just
here?"
get
Yeah.
your feet in the dirt
Yes.
somehow.
Exactly,
Mhm.
exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I totally love all that stuff. We did like a little meditation, set some intentions before our first broadcast too. But I really do feel like it does clear your head and it clears your soul and your
Yeah.
mind, just in setting those intentions. But yeah,
Exactly.
I love that. That stuff is awesome. It's awesome.
And I love that you've took all your writings and you put those into like one place into that book. When did you publish that, Kelly?
December of last year.
Okay,
Yeah.
congratulations, number one.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's awesome. And we'll make sure we add that to
Oh,
the,
thanks.
I don't know if you put the
Mhm.
name of your book in the thing you sent.
I don't remember if I
I'll
did.
review again, but if I don't see it in there, we will definitely put that. So
Mm.
our viewers, if they're interested in picking up that book, then they can do that.
Great.
Where would be the best place for them to get your book?
They can go to Amazon,
Okay,
Barnes and Noble,
sure.
Indigo if they're in Canada.
Yep,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. And see, we wouldn't have had a conversation about tree hugging if I hadn't put it in my bio. Right?
Great. Yeah,
People
absolutely.
don't start with those kinds of things, but I think
Yeah. Well, and as I was saying before, I was just in Canada and
yeah.
didn't even realize I was like a town over from you or a couple towns over. I don't know. I'm not good with land with directions and stuff.
Like
I
a
know we were
40-minute
pretty
drive
close.
from where we are.
Yeah, yeah. But we went to Van Dusen Gardens
Oh, nice.
and as soon as we walked up, you could smell the pine and I
Mm.
saw some type of snake. It looked like a weeping willow, but it was some type of snake
Oh, yes.
spruce. And it was just gorgeous. And then they had all the like stories about how the trees actually talk to each other and talk to
Wow.
other organisms through their roots. So it was
Yeah.
very, very interesting. I absolutely,
Mycelium in the roots and that
yeah,
communication system. It's amazing. Ah, what a beautiful garden that is.
yeah, it was really nice. So you have you gave us three books that you found inspirational. Um, the first was Women Who Run with the Wolves.
Yes.
And then on the next was The Way of Integrity. And the third is Braiding Sweetgrass, which is funny because I went to an author conference and the woman who wrote
Oh,
Braiding
Robin
Sweet,
Mortimer.
yeah, she was there and
Oh my
talking about
gosh.
the book. So, but of those three books, like, or even if you want to speak to each one of them, like what was like so pivotal about each one of those?
Robin Wall in Braiding Sweetgrass really touches the whole connection between everything and everybody, and the importance of living in reciprocity with each other. And that was very impactful because I think all three of these books kind of have a thread where their words just spoke to my heart and my soul. And they said the things that I believe deep down, and some of the things you don't know until you hear someone else say it, right? And so it woke up that part of me that really resonated with those words. And so I would love to be able to see more of us living in reciprocity. And there's such a connection between how we care for our older folks and how we care for nature. And we're not doing a very great job at either. And I think some realms and some places have excellent care and knowledge, and they're caretakers of these places and these people. But society as a whole is doing a terrible job. And I think that we could do a lot better if we thought of everybody as connected and
Yeah.
thought of nature as we're all part of it. We're not away from it. We're not separate from it. We are all part of the same nature. And that has the same kind of thread through Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes in Women Who Run with the Wolves, is that whole thread of who we are can't be separated. In how we think of hyper individual our lives and economics and all these different things, but how we connect to ourselves is so important. And the stories that she uses, she's a Jungian psychologist, and she has a lot of wonderful stories that are really that speak to who we are as people and how we can actually find that depth that is underneath that acculturation, that socialization. What we've learned isn't always who we are deep down. And so she brings that back into focus in that book so beautifully. And every time I read it, I get stuck on like one or two pages, and then I have a profound epiphany every single time. So it takes me so long to get through that book because I learn something more about myself every time I read a single page. And so that's a super profound one. And then the third one is The Way of Integrity by Martha Beck, who have you heard of her? She used to be Oprah's life coach. She was one of the first life coaches in the name of that. And The Way of Integrity was really about learning how to know where to face when it comes to making decisions, how to find that North Star to face toward, because you don't know where you're going to end up if you're not sure where you want to go. And so by learning what is true for you is going to be the most important way to go forward. And so she has all these different stories that tell you how to check in with yourself and be able to tell what is a yes or a no, or a full body yes or a hell no, right? Like, so there's all of these different ways to be able to make yourself like have your integrity intact while making decisions. And it was so impactful that I ended up taking her life coaching training. And so it was a 9-month program in life coaching, and we learned all of these amazing things. But she just has a great amount to say about how to keep your integrity while you're living your life, because that's the only way to have a joyful life.
Yeah.
Right. And so communication, it affects every part of our lives, what our integrity is and how we are affected by it. So yeah, those 3 books are one of my favorites.
Love that.
But many more. Elizabeth Gilbert too is one of my favorites.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's so many great books out there. So we like really push people up against the wall saying, pick a couple.
I know it's hard, but yeah. but creativity, I think sharing your story is really important. And
Yeah.
that's what a lot of these favorite authors do, is encourage people to just story tell, because
Yeah.
people want to story listen,
Mhm.
right?
And there's so
Yeah.
many ways to tell your story too,
Mhm.
through artistic expression or, writing, journaling,
Yeah.
music. Yeah.
Yeah. Creativity is something that we've been taught that isn't for everybody. You have
Yeah.
to be good at it, or you have to be able to make money at it, but it's not true. We're all
Right.
creation. So
Yes.
we're all
Yes.
creative.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love the way you put that. I love the
Yeah.
way you put that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't think I was creative for the longest time until I was bored of looking at white furniture in my house. So I ditched a white bookshelf and I painted one that was all wood with glass doors, and just decided to paint it in the theme of Alice in Wonderland because I wanted something fun to look at down my hallway. And it was just so fantastic. It turned out so well. And I practiced drawing. I painted every single shelf and the door frame, and like it's beautiful. So I tell that story a lot because I didn't believe I was creative until
Yeah.
I just did it. And then it led to writing books and writing posts and sharing my story and sharing what was important to me without caring as much about judgment and what other people would think, because we just need to tell our story.
Mhm.
Yeah. Talking about your bookshelf that you transformed into this beautiful piece, and tying that with creativity, like even what you've done with the whole touch program that you have with the elderly and people who are in hospice, like it's taking something that needs something extra, right? It needs that extra oomph, and then you take it and you turn it into something beautiful, which it sounds like that is exactly what you've done with your business. And bringing and then tying in that like communication and that connectiveness that you've read about in those books, and that you feel so much in your soul when you're out in the trees. Just like you're tying that all into everything that you're doing. So I think like people think creative too, like, oh, well, that means I gotta paint, or that means I
Yeah,
have to do this, but it can mean so much more. It's what brings beauty to our world, and how is it that you do that? So
yeah,
yeah,
definitely. Do I have time for another quick share?
Oh
yeah,
gosh, yeah.
absolutely.
So not only is One Caring Human Society doing this kind of work, but we're also expanding into, well, two different areas. So one is we've been doing chair massage events for organizations who serve vulnerable populations. And so we're also working with folks who are facing homelessness and housing challenges, as well as we did an event at International Overdose Awareness Day. There's many shelters that would love us to come in. And so we get them to kind of, they donate something to our organization and we come and provide the chair massage for free, because there's a lot of people who don't get touched in nice ways.
Right.
Especially like think of someone who lives on the street and comes for donations to get food and things like that. Like we connected with so many amazing people and they were so grateful just to have that kind touch. So that's one thing. And then the other thing that we're doing is we were funded to do this program where we're connecting olders and youngers. So we call them olders, just to give them a fun name that doesn't have like stigma attached to it. So the olders in care homes and elementary school children. So they're grade 5 and 6. And we've created this program where we're connecting the two in intergenerational connection and social inclusion. So we did this a bunch of workshops with the olders first for a few months, getting to know them, and then we did a bunch of workshops at the school, getting to know them and helping the children kind of prepare if they aren't used to going to a senior's home to know what to expect and how to communicate and what they might be able to have fun doing together. And so we've had 4 out of our 6 connection events at the senior's home where the kids will come for a field trip and we do these connection events. So they've been getting to know each other and everyone is so excited and so engaged. And it's been so beautiful to watch. We did a day on the importance of play and what they can learn about each other and about themselves. And we did a holiday kind of gathering where we had everyone go. I don't know if you've seen those, but there's little boxes and you kind of climb in and it's like a photo frame like Hollywood
Okay.
Squares and
Yeah.
you're in there and there's some Christmas decorations and everyone did a little pose in there. So we've got this beautiful Christmas card of all of these different participants, olders and youngers alike, and that turned out so beautiful. And they had little soft snowballs and they had a snowball fight and they sprayed snow on the windows and had just a great time doing that. And then we're gonna do a couple more in January, but the whole thing is going to culminate in a book that we're publishing where the seniors are the photographers because they're all learning
Oh,
cameras. They're the photographers and authors of the book, and the children are going to be drawing all the pictures of the backdrops of the pages behind the photos and everything. So it's a whole like
That's
community being
amazing.
built.
that's so
Yeah.
beautiful. That idea is amazing, the olders and youngers, because
Yeah.
when you think about it, I mean, the olders were younger at one point. And, and it kind of bridges that gap
Oh my
between,
gosh. They love it.
oh my God, that is such a fabulous idea. I love that so much. And I bet that, they realize that they're not so different, that I bet it brings out, like you said, the play in the olders,
Yes.
and the
Oh
youngers
my
aren't so
gosh.
intimidated by the olders when they get to
That's
know
right.
them.
Yes. Oh my gosh. It's been so much fun. And I've had the elders come to me after every session almost. And someone says, like, that was so much fun. Like, I can't wait to come back next week. And
Aw,
all the kids have their favorite elders who they want to learn more about.
yeah,
And we might be doing a fun Google Earth thing with them with virtual reality headsets where they will be able to take the olders back to where they were born and see, because a lot of them immigrated from different countries.
yeah,
And so there's to be able to see where they were born and have the kids hear their stories, that could be a nice connection point. So
yeah.
that's going to be fun.
That's
Mhm.
great. I
So
love
we
it.
want to continue some programs like that as well
Mhm.
because it's so important. Yeah.
Thank you so much for everything that you're doing for our world.
Oh,
Debbie and I, we
my pleasure.
really, when we started doing this project, we really wanted to highlight women who are doing just phenomenal things for our world. You got the world news or whatever you guys have there in Canada where, it's all is like just negativity. And then they give this little blurb at the end of 30
Yeah.
seconds of somebody that's making a difference in our world. So we want to highlight those things more of that and put more
Mhm.
of that positivity into our world. So, but thank
So
you so
needed.
much for
So
everything,
needed, yes.
especially for our older generations. Like, um, I work in healthcare as well. I work with
Ah,
caregivers, and so, we are in a crisis right now when it comes to the aging population and the lack of space at facilities and just like the lack of services. It just so just hearing your story and that you're doing like
Mhm.
those things that you're doing are causing ripple effects, and
Yes,
hopefully
yeah.
like other places will start modeling your
right,
programs because I think they're just beautiful.
yes,
Yeah. And we need to start now because the population is just going to grow.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even imagine what the population of the United States is with folks over the age of 65. But
Yeah.
in less than 30 years in Canada, there's going to be more than 12 million people over the age of 65 from 7 million right now. And we don't
Mhm.
have the space and the facilities for them or the caregivers. for that matter. So yeah,
Right.
we need to do
Yeah.
something now.
COVID
Mhm.
took a lot of our caregivers out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess it's like your podcast talks about women over 50, right? And somehow we tend to just step into, I feel like I stepped into my action phase where I am getting all of these things finally started
Yes.
because I'm not so worried about the judgment. And you know what? Like, if you don't like it, you can not be part of it. I will
Right.
do and go ahead with what I need to do for my heart and my soul and my integrity. And it just
Yeah.
seems to be that, right? Once you turn 50, I don't know what it is, but something turned on.
It's an aha moment in itself, turning 50.
Yeah.
I think you sit there and you realize, all right, I've got, I don't want to say this much time, but how are you going to make an impact for the rest of your life? What do the
Right.
purpose that you're going to find? What is your purpose now? I think you really start to think about and reflect on what your purpose is
Mhm.
around 50 and think
Yeah.
about what you want to
Agreed.
do for yourself and for the world.
And also noticing mortality. Like, my mom
Yes.
passed away.
Yes.
Mm,
Yeah.
I'm not going to live forever. So
Right.
I need to do something now and
Hmm.
not
And leaving
regret
a
not doing it.
legacy, like, and it's not about like, oh, I left a legacy, but it's just like,
Right.
what important things are you gonna do? What footprint are you gonna leave the world with? You can either leave it with something positive or negative. And so like, I love that your strides to doing these positive things for for those folks is so wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I've got a couple other books on the go too. So
Yay, yay. Well, definitely keep in touch with us about,
I
Yes.
your
will.
upcoming books and yeah, for our viewers, we will post Kelly's information if you want to learn more about her organization, just for learning about it, or if you have ideas like that for your area that you live in. I'm sure she'd
Yeah,
be
I
grateful.
would love to talk
Oh,
to anyone about it.
yeah, just
Absolutely.
kind of share with you. So,
The more the
Debbie,
better.
do you have any more questions?
No, I mean, phenomenal conversation. So
Yeah,
happy to have you, Kelly. The things that you're doing are amazing. So we're so happy to see you're making, all the women that we have on this podcast make such a difference in the world. We're so grateful to have you all. So
yeah,
thank
Oh,
you.
well, thank
yeah,
you for your amazing podcast. It's so needed. So I really appreciate it. And thank you for having me on. Such a pleasure to
absolutely.
talk to you both.
It
Thank
was
you.
our pleasure to have you on.
Thanks. I'd love to keep in touch.
Sounds good.